You're good.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Committee of the Adjustment hereby accepts the agenda for April 6, 2021 public meeting hearing as presented. Number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest.
So you'll need a mover and a seconder to confirm the agenda.
That's right, we will. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving. I have Christopher seconding. Over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So the motion on the floor is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby accepts the agenda for the April 6, 2021 public hearing as presented. So committee member Sype. Oh, it looks like committee member Sype's having connectivity issues. So we'll come back. Can you hear us, committee member Sype?
Yes.
So committee member Falconer,
Yes.
committee member Heffer,
Yes.
committee member Van Henderson,
Yes.
committee member Palmer,
Yes.
committee member McBurney,
Yes.
committee member Sype. We'll try again here.
Yes.
And Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you kindly. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Not seeing any. We'll move on. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby adopts the minutes from the Committee of Adjustment hearing held January 11th, 2021 as presented. Do I have a mover? Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving and I have Deputy Reeve Sype seconding.
So committee member Falconer, committee member Heffer,
Yes.
committee member Van Henderson,
Yes.
committee member Palmer,
Yes.
committee member McBurney,
Yes.
committee member Sype, committee member Sype, I think you're still having tech issues there.
Yes.
Okay, yep, and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Number 5, statement of precedent. The decision reached by the committee cannot be used to set a precedent. Scheduled application, file number MV01-2021. Location 82 Curve Drive, Lot 1 and 2, Plan 414 Wingham Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron. Application owners, DC McCloskey Engineering Limited, Gary Singh of KRS Holding Wingham Inc. We're going to go to 6.1.1, presentation from the Huron County Planner. I'm going to hand it over to you, Monica.
Thank you very much, Reeve Burney. Good evening, everybody. This is an application for minor variance. And as the Reeve has stated, the location of the subject property is in Wingham. And tonight is the public meeting. So the applicants are DC McCloskey Engineering on behalf of Gary Singh of KRS Holdings Wingham Inc. The location of the property is 82 Kerr Drive, which is legally known as Lot 1 and 2, Plan 414 Wingham. And that, of course, is in the Township of North Huron, County of Huron. So this is minor variance, our first minor variance for this year, 2021. The current zoning on the property is C3-1. The C3-1 is a highway commercial zone with some special provisions. The special provisions don't really have much of an impact on this application to reduce the number of stacking spaces within a drive-through. The special provisions relate to the fact that this application is in a special policy area, and they require that development in this area have consideration for possible flooding impacts. The designation in the official plan is highway commercial. The application proposes a drive-through restaurant with reduced stacking spaces. So on the subject property, you'll see in a moment when I show you my my site photos, excuse me. The property is already developed for a gas station, convenience store, drive-through car wash, and then there is a restaurant unit within the existing building that hasn't yet opened as a restaurant. And in order to make that more attractive to a potential tenant, the owner of the property would like to make that capable of being a drive-through restaurant. Now, it's a little challenging on this subject property to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw of 10 stacking spaces because of the existing drive-through car wash. So the application is proposing 5 spaces of stacking. What stacking is it's spaces where cars can line up when they're waiting in the drive-through, waiting to make their order or waiting to arrive at the takeout window to pick up their order. So 10 spaces is pretty generous. There's a lot of cars that can be accommodated with 10 spaces. The reason it's so high is we have high volume users like your coffee shops. This restaurant is proposed to be a takeout restaurant similar to like a fried chicken restaurant or something like that. So the needs of stacking are likely going to be less than some of your busy coffee shop type uses. So I'll show you the air photo. This air photo on the next slide. Now this is what the property looked like back in 2015 before the existing commercial development was developed, but I'll show you a slide in a moment that shows the existing development. So we can go to the next slide. So when you're considering an application for minor variance, there are 4 tests in the Planning Act that must be considered. First of all, does the application meet the intent of the local official plan? Second, does it meet the intent of the local zoning bylaw? Third, is it desirable for the appropriate development of the lands in question? And fourth, is it minor in nature? So in this case, we had to consider what is the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. The zoning bylaw states 10 stacking spaces for drive-through. And as I've stated a moment ago, we have to think about the worst case scenario in our busy coffee shops when we set the requirements of the zoning bylaw. In this case, there is a lot of room for traffic flow on the property, but when it comes to the stacking spaces for the drive-through, there's only so much room available because of the existing drive-through car wash. So it is the opinion of the planning department that this application for minor variance can be approved to reduce the required stacking spaces, and that we still won't see problems with off-site impacts or traffic hazards because cars won't be stacking up onto the street. And I'll show you what I mean by that on the next slide. Okay, actually it's the slide after this, but this is what the development looks like from the front of the building. So as you can see, you've got your gas station pumps and you've got your convenience store. And at the far end in the red there, you can see the outdoor for the car wash. The facade that sticks up in the middle there, that's where the restaurant unit is. So if we go to the next slide. So to get to this point, this is at the rear portion of the property. You can see the stacking lanes here for the car wash, and you can see a car waiting to go into the car wash. In order to do the drive-through restaurant, they're going to need to change this curb that they have here, and they're going to need to have cars be able to pull up along the side of the building. And the amount of room that they have for that is really limited to the amount of space they have along the back side of this building. So 5 parking spaces or stacking spaces for cars in the drive-through is the most that they're able to accommodate. But if we just go back to the previous slide, I'll give you an impression. So if cars were to back up further than the 5 stacking spaces shown on their site plan, what they would do is they would come around and line up just past those garbage bins that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. So if we've underestimated the number of stacking spaces necessary, it's not going to cause cars to stack up on the public street. They will start to stack up in this traffic flow aisle next to the gas pumps. So that's not what we like to see, of course, but in the worst case scenario where we didn't allow for enough stacking spaces, the impacts are going to be on site, not off site. So in consideration of all of these things, and in consideration of the 4 tests under the Planning Act, it is, and in consideration of the fact that we haven't received any concerns from agencies or neighboring property owners, it is the Planning Department's recommendation that this application for minor variance be approved.
Thank you very much, Monica. We appreciate that. Now it's time for opportunity for comments from the application by the applicant and his agency. Is there anyone out there, Mr. Singh out there, anyone that would like to speak to this? Unless Carson's seeing somebody, I am not. So we shall move on. Opportunity to comment by others in attendance. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this? I'm not seeing Carson or anyone say there is, so we will continue to move on. Go ahead. Okay, not hearing of anybody that wants to. Opportunity, questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment members? Anyone on the committee here? Go ahead, Kevin first, Anita second, followed by Deputy Reeve Site.
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. The question goes towards Monica. When the first we dealt with the proposal for the new build that was there, a drive-in restaurant was included in that at first, but they didn't have a tenant, and I do believe they came back and we made an adjustment for the car wash.
Yes.
On the original site plan, was there room for 10 stacking?
Oh, that's a tough one. Through you, Reeve, Bailey. Now, I have to be honest with you. I wasn't the planner providing service to North Huron when the first site plan application came in. I did do the report for the second site plan. So it's testing my memory to recall, but I think that you may be correct and I think that the fact that the drive-through car wash is there is having a big impact on their ability to provide the minimum number of parking spaces required by the zoning bylaw. So there's there wasn't a minor variance for reduced stacking spaces for that drive-through when it was approved the first time. So that would indicate to me that when they first applied, they were able to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. I think this is happening now because they've developed with the car wash in that location, and they're now trying to do the drive-through as well. And it's a little challenging to make both work with the space available.
No. Is there no regulation in having cross traffic? You're going to have the outside lane going inside and the inside lane taking their food order and crossing the lane coming in from the outside. Does that not cause any problem as far as the Huron County is concerned as the authority of making this work? They've already came for one change when the first problem of not having a tenant for the restaurant came up, and they made adjustments for having the car wash on the end, and now with having the restaurant in the middle. I just find that just seems to be, that should be a red flag right off the bat of having one business go crossing over another. And I just find it very, was it easier to do the variance the first time and then come back and ask for less parking, stacking spaces now, or it just doesn't seem to be, had been a well thought out or rushed plan the first time to change it. And I'm just curious as to how we can allow that kind of a crossover. I don't see it in any other retail spaces where one business crosses over the other. So I want your opinion as far as Huron County is concerned as to whether that poses any kind of a problem.
Sure. So the design of the traffic lanes definitely would be something that we would look at the site plan approval. So this is in order to even move to the site plan approval stage for the way they've designed it, they would need this minor variance approved. But I did consider that when I visited the site to lay my eyes on how the traffic would move in that area so that I could come to my own understanding of what's being proposed here. I would say that obviously having lanes of traffic need to cross one another isn't ideal, but it isn't uncommon in the sense that if you think of your typical drive-through restaurant and where the vehicles leave the pickup window and move out of the lane and move to the public street, they do have to cross areas where pedestrian traffic is happening, and oftentimes there are exits for pedestrians right into drive-through lanes. So vehicles moving at a slow speed crossing one another, I think, is less of a hazard than vehicles interacting with pedestrians. So I think that both things are dealt with on site plans and on commercial properties. I think that, it's true that the applicant is dealing with some constraints, and they're trying to work through those constraints through some requested planning applications to address what they're unable to meet. I wouldn't say that the traffic lanes crossing one another would be enough to make me recommend against the application.
Do you know which one has the right of way?
I don't think there would be a right of way. They could put a sign to ask one lane to yield to another, or they could just do it on the basis of first come, first serve. I think of one of my typical places that I go for a coffee in Goderich was the drive-through at the McDonald's in Goderich, and there's 2 lanes there where you put in your order, and then those lanes have to merge in order to get to the pickup window. So cars they're going at a low speed, and the drivers have to figure out who's there first and whose turn it is. And I think the same would be the case for these 2 uses.
Thanks, Monica. I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Hittersum now.
Yes, thank you. Monica, are we looking at the area now where they want to make a lane?
Yes, the lane will have to come up the side of the building in order to access the takeout window. So they'll
Okay,
have
thank
to.
you.
Thank you very
Are
much.
there any concerns with stormwater management then? Because I remember that the ditches were already different too here around the property, and it's a low-lying area. Is there any concerns for stormwater right now, because they're paving everything now?
There will be a maximum lot coverage in the zoning bylaw, and the new site plan that will be submitted they'll have to indicate whether taking out this grass berm puts them in violation of that maximum lot coverage. But to be perfectly frank, I don't have that information at my fingertips right now, but we could look at it on a site plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Reeve Sipes? Did we lose him?
So is there, when you come to a site plan approval, is there to be additional building to, like, additional expansion to this building that's already been built? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I don't think so. I think they just need to cut the curb back so that they create another lane adjacent to the building and then come up to a takeout window. I don't think they have to add on to the building.
Well, I got to admit, it is not going to be very easy for me to visualize where a takeout window goes in this building, especially where the white thing is on the page that I'm looking at is the building beside, and there's a door that leads, I'm assuming, is the back of the restaurant. And there's sidewalks all around. I don't know how they can get close enough for a drive-in and then come back out is my concern. But if that, from a stacking perspective, I don't have a concern. From a site plan, I might have more concerns when the site plan comes available. But at this point, I don't have any concerns with the stacking because of the minor variance. I agree with you, Monica, in the sense that they're not going to be stacking out into public into public traffic. So, and again, I don't think there is going to be, the car wash, for example, does not have a steady stream of traffic every minute of the day, where this restaurant may have more than that. So, from a stacking perspective, I don't have a concern, but I do have a concern again, like Councillor Van Hittersum had, with stormwater management and exactly access to this building. It just seems to me, and I have to agree with Councillor Faulkner, it seems like they went around this. It seems like they in my mind, only what I'm saying is the car wash should be where the restaurant is, the restaurant should be where the car wash is, and then they wouldn't have this issue. But it seems like they went around it backwards. But that's their prerogative. They're just needing our support in order to amend the minor variance. So those are my comments. But I would have to agree. I don't have any concerns from the stacking perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Rafe. Yeah, this is when a township gives a minor variance and there's motor vehicle traffic involved at a business. Is there a liability weighed back on us if there happened to be a fender bender there? Do you know? It would take a smart lawyer to figure that one out, but like on the vehicle side, but I hate for that to happen. And we're doing our best to try and help these folks get a business going. I wouldn't want a liability issue.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Not seeing any. We're going to move on to 6.1.5, summary comments and recommendations of the Huron County Planner and Development Department. Monica?
Thank you, Reeve Bailey. I don't know if the capability is available, but I did quickly search through my email, and I do have a copy of the site plan that was provided as a part of the application. If I'm able to share my screen and provide you guys a look at that, I'm not sure if that's helpful or not. Okay, looks like Carson just gave me some sharing permission, so let me just show you here. Oh, sure, now it's minimized. Just 1 second. Gotta make that active. Share that. There it is. Share that. Okay, so you can see what's on my Adobe Acrobat reader. So on this site plan that was provided as a part of the application, the lane that brings the vehicles in for the drive-through comes out and around some of the existing grassed area and then meets the side of the building and then curves back out. So you can see how they've illustrated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parking spots or stacking spots in the drive-through. And as I said, if cars started to exceed that, they would likely come down the side of where these garbage bins are and line up along this curb here. So when it comes to the lanes of traffic crossing one another for the car wash and the drive-through, there's a waiting area behind a bar here where the cars wait to be allowed to go into the car wash. So the cars leaving the drive-through would pass in front of where the lineup for your turn is and go across. And only when a car is cleared to go into the car wash would they pass through this area. So as I said before, I think the traffic is moving at a low speed. So this should be a minor hazard to have these lanes of traffic pass one another. So I hope that's a little bit helpful to have a chance to see that. The Reeve had asked what the recommendation of the planning department is. It is the recommendation of the planning department that the application for minor variance be approved.
I have a question, Reeve.
It looks like the Reeve has been cut off. So I will, Member Faulkner, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. On the site plan for when the car wash was approved, what was the stacking allotment for the car wash?
So it cut, one sec. So let me ask the question before we do that. Monica, this site plan approval is going to have to come to council for site plan approval after the minor variance is approved, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how about we wait? How about we get that? You've heard the question, Monica. I think ultimately what I would suggest is that we table those questions from the site. Any questions that relate to the site plan, let's move that to the site plan agreement question, and only deal with if there's issues with the minor variance concern. So I think that just makes sense. Is there any questions as it relates to the minor variance?
Robert, sorry I popped out there, guys. I just wanted to ask Monica. Monica, the diagram you showed us with the car wash in there is the original diagram that was presented to council before the building started or later?
This is the latest version in support of the minor variance application. So it's showing how both the car wash and the drive-through would work together.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, this is. I'm satisfied with this. There's for more stacking of vehicles down on the side, like Monica said. So good. And that was a good diagram. It showed the cars crossing at about a 90-degree angle, so they see one another. So I'm satisfied with that as well.
I think then by the looks of it, we're ready to move on to 7, are we not? We've already done the summary of the comments and recommendations of the Huron County Planning and Development Department. Monica, you did that, did you not? Thank you kindly. I don't see any hands going up, so I'm going to move on to 7, decision of the Committee of Adjustment and the effect of comments received by the committee's decision. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve minor variance application MV01-2021 as an application to 82 Kerr Drive, Lot 1 and 2, Plan 414 Wingham Ward, Township of North Huron, County of Huron. Application owners are DC McCloskey Engineering Limited, Gary Singh of KRS Holdings Wingham Inc. with the conditions set out in the report presented by Monica Walker Bolton, planner at the April 6, 2021 Committee of Adjustment hearing. That's for the minor variance application MV01-2021. Monica, I'm going to let you do the first one first, and then we'll do the recommendations from the chart. Oh, sorry.
So Reeve Bailey, so you've read the first motion there. So if you want to get a mover and a seconder, and then we'll put that to a vote, and then after that, you would deal with the second motion.
Yeah, sorry, Monica. That's not your job, Monica. I have Chris Palmer moving. I believe I seen Deputy Reeve Sipes' hand go up. I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Heffer?
Yes.
Committee Member Van Hitterson? I see you nodding, yes. Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney. I see you nodding yes as well. Committee Member Sype. Committee Member Falconer
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0. So your next motion now is the effects of comments on the committee's decision.
Monica, if you could give us a recommendation, I would appreciate it.
Certainly. So there were no public comments and there were no agency comments. So the item 2A and 2B are recommended. No comments, no public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. No agency comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision.
Thank you very kindly. Do I have a mover? And I can't see everybody right now, so, okay, there we go. I have Paul Heffer moving. I have Anita Van Henderson second. When you're ready, Kurt.
So Committee Member Van Henderson,
Yes.
Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Sype,
Yes.
Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heffer,
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes,
So that motion carries 7-0.
thank you. Reminder of the appeal period, minor variance procedure following a public meeting. The Secretary Treasurer sends within 10 days a certified copy of the decision indicating the last day of appealing to the local planning appeal tribunal. 2, the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, if requested. Each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearing and who filed with the Secretary Treasurer a written request for notice of decision. If no appeal is lodged after the 20-day objection period has expired and no appeal has been lodged, the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer shall notify the applicant. If a notice of appeal is lodged within 20 days of the Committee of Adjustment making the decision, the appeal is lodged with the Secretary Treasurer outlining the reasons for such an appeal, and the appeal is accompanied by a required fee of $400. The Committee of Adjustment no longer retains the jurisdiction over the application. If a proper appeal is lodged, the Secretary Treasurer is required to provide proper notice to the local planning appeal board. Adjournment. There being no further business before this Committee of Adjustment, the public hearing be adjourned here at 6:06 p.m. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving. I have Paul seconding. Carson, I'll give it to you for.
Thank you, Chair Bailey. So Committee Member Palmer,
Yes.
Committee Member McBurney,
Yes.
Committee Member Sype, Committee Member Falconer,
Yes.
Committee Member Heffer,
Yes.
Committee Member Van Henderson,
Yes.
and Chair Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0. So we'll adjourn this committee meeting and then we will flip over to the regular council meeting.